Let's talk about another inconsistency that I want to point out. The pattern of bold promises that never come to pass. See, just last year in mid-2024, I was told directly, and I quote, by Destry, don't be surprised when we come out of interim status by the beginning of 2025. Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, headed into basically toward the end of the third quarter of 2025, and here we still are in interim status. With only 2 states, by the way, still assembled and settled. After how many years? You're telling me after all these years, we shouldn't have more states assembled and settled by now? It just so happens to be the only 2 states that Destry has his finger dipped in the cookie jar in, which happens to be Michigan and Alaska. That's it. Okay. Welcome to The People's Authority, brought to you in part by MyView Media. So, I want to get into something today, all right? Something that I wanted to clear up. See, sometimes you've got to stop and you got to take a deep breath, right? And you got to set the record straight. Not because you're chasing drama, not because you're trying to win an argument, but because the truth matters. See, Proverbs 12:17 says, an honest witness tells the truth, but a false witness tells lies. And today, that's all I want to do, right? That's all I want to be, is an honest witness. Now, to be clear from the very start, all right? So there's no misconception. This is for clarification, and it is a formal and official and on the record. So there is no misunderstanding, and this is my formal and official communication and video denouncing any affiliation, past, present, or future, with national-assembly.net, with restore-america.org, Destry and Company, and any other affiliations that I used to have with Destry and Company. Okay? Now, I find it interesting, actually very interesting, as a matter of fact, I find it very interesting that a public notice was posted on national-assembly.net trying to paint the Michigan General Jural Assembly, and by extension myself, as infiltrators and reprobates who supposedly attempted another coup. We're just going to stop right there, all right? Because first off, there was no coup. None. I don't care what anybody says. If anything, the very kind of actions being condemned are the same actions that years ago Robert Gilman had to actually personally confront Destry, one up in Alaska, not to do. And the reason we know this is because of archived messages that we had uncovered. That's right, archived messages that we had uncovered that were direct exchanges between Destry and Robert Gilman. And in a nutshell, what did he tell Destry? Well, you are to basically not be the one in the forefront, especially using national-assembly.net like you're using it. Basically making him the central hub for communication of all assemblies. That's not what was supposed to be done. But yet here we are with the same accusations being repeated, and the same attempt to demonize not just the MGJA, but also the work being done in cooperation with Robert Kraft and our United Republic. And that's a separate conversation for another day, but it is worth pointing out. What makes it even stranger is this: the same people making these accusations, right, are also calling Robert Kraft a redcoat. A redcoat because he's a bar card holding lawyer. But here's the detail that they won't talk about. Robert is an international human rights bar card holding barrister. There's a big difference here. I actually texted Robert earlier before this video, and he confirmed this with me. There are many different bars out there, right? There are many different bar cards that you can hold. And it's not just a one-size-fits-all. But that's also beside the point. Here's what I verified directly with Robert himself. Now, years ago, long before now, Roger, who many of you know on the National Assembly Thursday calls as the moderator, and another gentleman by the name of Tom out of Florida, reached out to Robert Kraft. They approached him. They talked with him. And when they couldn't produce the solid details of what they claimed to have, they went silent. That's right, they went silent. Now, ask yourself, ladies and gentlemen, use your critical thought for a moment, all right? Use common sense for a moment. Use discernment. Roger has worked side by side, okay, side by side with Destry for years. Do you think Robert just magically got his bar card in the last year or so? No. He has always had it, and yet Destry's group knows full well what Robert is doing in conjunction with the military. Now, let's address something even more baffling. If the MGJA is supposedly filled with reprobates, okay, me being including in that group, of course, and I'm being labeled as an infiltrator, then why is my website, thepeoplesauthority.com, still appearing on material connected to national-assembly.net and the website and different marketing materials that Destry also stole and posted as of March of 2025 in the forums of national-assembly.net? With my website still attached to it and changing 2 other websites that belong to him on the cards. See, again, recently, as of March of this year, they posted documents, right? A digital file with my website right there on it, along with national-assembly.net and restore-america.org. After simply, again, changing a couple of website links, that there was actually a couple of other original website links, which one of them was the Michigan General Assembly's new website, not the crappy domain that Destry owns. Now, if I'm truly the problem, now hear me on this. I want you to think about this, ladies and gentlemen, especially if you're following Destry. If I'm truly the problem, why keep using my website as a tool and reference on the national-assembly.net website and the alaskadejure.org website? It doesn't make any sense. If I'm an infiltrator, why use my site as a reference point? Why use my YouTube channel? And look, it's not like there's a whole lot going on there anyways, because I've taken a step back, because I have gotten very busy with life. But this isn't about marketing material that they borrowed, okay? This ain't about marketing material. This is specifically about them continuing to list and promote my website, a website that they now say belongs to someone that they claim is an infiltrator, i.e. being me. Now, that's the kind of inconsistency that I'm talking about. Now, let me show you some patterns of promises that never became fulfilled. Let's talk about another inconsistency that I want to point out. The pattern of bold promises that never come to pass. See, just last year in mid-2024, I was told directly, and I quote, by Destry, "Don't be surprised when we come out of interim status by the beginning of 2025. Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, headed into basically toward the end of the third quarter of 2025, and here we still are in interim status. With only 2 states, by the way, still assembled and settled. After how many years? You're telling me after all these years, we shouldn't have more states assembled and settled by now? It just so happens to be the only 2 states that Destry has his finger dipped in the cookie jar in, which happens to be Michigan and Alaska. That's it. Nobody finds that odd? Anybody? Bueller? Is this thing on? Does anybody find that kind of weird? And then back in 2023, it was declared that 2024 would be the year of astonishment, and yet astonished I am not. This is no different from others who make bold statements without evidence to back up the BS. Now, I will say, as far as my own responsibility, I'm not here to play victim. And I'm not here to slander anybody, but I also am going to sit here and take responsibility for the fact that I repeated some of the claims that I was told in the past by this individual. I regret that, and I regret that some of you have heard those claims from me and assumed they were verified. Now, for that, I truly offer my sincerest apology to those who have followed the People's Authority channel, and even before that, formerly known as His Hardline channel, from the very beginning. I'm just as frustrated as anyone else about the wasted time and energy, lots of time and energy, away from my family, by the way, spent listening to the words that turned out to be hollow. And to address something else, let's talk about something else. This is also for anyone who has attacked me since I first started speaking out about the inconsistencies and the wrongs of Destry and Company. For those claiming that I'm just trying to cover up my deeds from having been affiliated with him. Really? You couldn't even be further from the truth, and you know who you are out there in California. And to those of you who were also railroaded by Destry, Paul, and company, some of you have actually proven yourselves to be truly reprobative in your actions and truly infiltrative. And you know who you are. Some of you are very, very bad actors. You have bad character. And you were deceiving. And I'm not the only one who's going to, in fact, I'm not the one who will judge you. But I do promise you this, there is one who will. And at the end of the day, you're going to answer for your deeds one way or another. So don't sit there as if you are riding on some high horse, looking down on people like me who can admit a mistake and when I'm wrong and come forward and work to make it right, while at the same time trying to make sure others don't repeat the same process and mistake. Now, where do I stand now? Some of you might be asking, well, where do you stand now, Jason? All right, well, as for me, I've taken a huge step back from all of this. I'm actually taking a back seat for right now. I'm not stepping away, but I am taking a back seat for now. Because I've shifted my focus for the time being. My wife and I just welcomed a new baby in our household, all right, 3 months ago. We have a soon-to-be 9-year-old, okay, who is getting older by the day, and I do not intend on missing any more precious years with my already halfway to 18 daughter. My hands are full with family obligations, work, and me building a side business as well that I intend on bringing full-time down the road. So that's why there's been less activity on the People's Authority channel. But let me also be clear, the channel isn't going anywhere. It will stay up for as long as YouTube exists, and so the MGJ and other state assemblies can continue to use those videos. Now, I'll still post new content when inspiration hits, time permits, and when the need arises. I will do that. But I also want to make something perfectly clear. I no longer give any consent for my website to be used, displayed, or promoted on any domain or piece of material owned and operated by Destry or his affiliates. Take it off. I do not want the traffic from that source, a deceiving source. So here are some questions that I think are worth asking. And I encourage you to ask these questions. And these are actually fair questions. You should ask Destry and Company and Paul these questions. If Jason is supposedly an infiltrator, why keep promoting his website? That's a pretty good question. If you claim not to affiliate, okay, Destry, if you claim not to affiliate Roger with bar members, then why did Roger and Tom reach out to Robert Kraft years ago? Better yet, even though they're not affiliated with any of us, why did Joe Belton also reach out? If working with members of the bar is a big no-no, why is everybody wanting to try to work with Robert Kraft to say that they are the official group that's restoring the Republic? Why? Ask yourself the question, ladies and gentlemen, why? If working with a member of the bar is a big no-no, then why are so many people flocking to Robert Kraft? Again, What he does is a different subject for a different video, different show, different day. I'm not going to cover that here. But again, ask yourself the question, why? And if bold promises keep being made and then missed, then why are you still making them? Because again, some of you may have been around long enough since the beginning of this year, 2025, and maybe you might remember a certain National Assembly call where he said, do not be surprised that in the middle of summer, by July or August, right, summer of 2025, big things are going to happen, basically insinuating that we would be out of interim status. But here we are, mid-August, going into September 2025. Summer's almost over, and yet another big, bold statement that became a big nothing burger. Imagine that. Imagine that. Now, I would have to say that I would agree there are big things happening. But again, all of this is just Destry throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping one noodle will stick. And when it finally does, he'll stake his entire claim to fame on that one noodle, because it happened to coincide with a big event that had nothing to do with him or his efforts, nor the efforts of those who affiliate with him. But they'll still try to brand themselves as the movers and shakers behind the restoration of the Republic. Okay. You know, Ephesians 5:11 says, have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. Now, that doesn't mean stirring up gossip or personal attacks, but what it does mean is stating the truth, drawing a line, and moving forward in integrity. So, at the end of the day, no matter what people say, God the Father, creator of all, the sovereign King, the Father of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, is ultimately in control. No matter what man can or will do, God's ultimately in control. Just so we're clear. And so my encouragement to you is this: do not be deceived. Do not be deceived. Okay? Do not be deceived by the noise. Let your discernment guide you. Test everything against truth and ask yourself, in this moment, who's walking with integrity? Who's walking in integrity, I should say, and who's just holding on to relevance? See, you got to ask yourself these relevant questions. You have to look at this objectively. And so I'll close with this. If there's a topic that you'd like me to address or a specific question that you want answered, let me know in the comments. I do read them. And if it's something I can speak to, I'll do my best to put a video together on it. But before you do that, make sure that you click that subscription button to the channel and follow along. That way you won't miss it when it does come out. I truly appreciate every single one of you who takes the time to watch and to listen and to engage, right? I do appreciate all of you. My hope is that each of you finds your calling, walks in truth, and lives in the peace and harmony that comes from our Father in heaven. I really do. Our Father in heaven, the creator of all. May God bless you, and thank you for tuning into the People's Authority. God bless.